Hope everybody's well tonight. Just want to get into tonight's topic. And tonight's topic is a true friend. When we say something is true, that means it's real, it's authentic, it's the real McCoy. It's something that we can see is factual, is true. And a true friend is someone that is real, is someone that is authentic. The real deal, true friend. It's a distinction between a true friend and a false friend, which I don't believe there's such a thing as a false friend. I believe a friend is a friend, and if somebody's not our friend, they're not our friend. That's just what it boils down to. Have we ever considered the definition of what the word friend actually means? Because we use that word friend, we throw it around too loosely. We kind of water down the meaning of what friend is. We call everybody a friend. And sometimes people say it, they don't really mean it. They just say it just to say it. Like when you see somebody in the street, hey, my friend, hey, my friend. You don't know them from a hole in the wall. They don't know you from a hole in the wall, but they would say your friend. When I go to a laundromat, there's these Asian women that work there. They would say, my friend. But I don't know them. I don't even know their name. So we use the word friend. We use it very loosely. We always say somebody's our friend. We have friends on social media. We have Instagram or Facebook, we have 300, 400 plus. Some people have 1,000 plus friends. But how many of those people really are your friends? How many of these people even interact with you? So we use the word friend, we throw it around way too loosely, where it has like a shallow meaning to it. But the definition of a friend is this: a person whom one knows and with whom one has a bond of mutual affection, exclusive of sexual or family relationship. So that's the definition of what a friend is: someone that we know and someone that we had a bond of mutual affection for. That's the definition of friend. So it's not that we know of such a person; we actually know the person. We take the time to conversate, to know, to hang out, to know that person. We know that person well. And then another example of that definition is someone that we have a bond, a connection of affection with. So in friendship, true friendship, we know the person, we know our friends, and we have a bond of affection with them. And that's mutual. That affection has to go both ways. It has to be reciprocal. So having a friend is good. Some people have one friend, having a friend is good. Some people may have one friend. Some people may have multiple friends. We have best friends or a best friend. Having a friend is good. And with that being said, there's a few pillars that I want to just focus on. Before I get into that, I want to say this. I believe that friendship should not be based upon something of ethnicity or economic status or social status or political status. Yes, a Democrat and Republican can be friends if they know how to put aside their political differences, if they can learn how to agree to disagree and still maintain a level of respect and affection towards each other. So I don't think friendship should be built upon those things. And again, I'm not saying, of course, we're going to be friends with people that we haven't had things in common with, commonality. But I'm just saying that we shouldn't just limit our friendship or our relationships to those who look like us, think like us, act like us. Now, the Bible does warn us that evil communication corrupt good manners. So I think all in all, when we're looking at friendship, right, we should be looking at the character of a person. And that takes time to really get to know that character, to trust that character, so forth. But there's 5 pillars that I want to focus on real quick that I think are important in any friendship. One is love, affection, true love. Okay, respect, commitment, loyalty, and forgiveness. Now, forgiveness is important because at some point in our friendship, and at some point in our walk with this friend or friends or whatever, people are going to mess up. People are going to drop the ball. People are going to make mistakes. They're going to sin, whatever you want to call it. They're not going to do right. Either they're not going to do right by us, they may do something to affect us personally, or they may do something to harm somebody else or harm their own life But the reality of it is they're going to miss the mark. And we know when somebody messes up, it's so easy to criticize, to judge, even get tempted to cut them off, to end that relationship. And one example of that is King David. And we know King David's story, where he lusted after Bathsheba. He went after Bathsheba. He impregnated her. And Bathsheba was the wife of Uriah, who was one of King David's men in the army. And there was a whole lot of deception going on there. And then, King David had Bathsheba's husband Uriah executed. So here was a man that not only had had an issue with lust. Here was a man that, well, let me just break it down. He was somewhere where he wasn't supposed to be. He was supposed to be on the battlefield, but yet he stayed behind. He saw Bathsheba. He had lust. He had sexual affairs with Bathsheba, and then he had her husband taken out. So this man had a plethora of issues, a plethora of problems. But his good friend, the prophet Nathan, did not see this as an opportunity to kick a man while he was down. He didn't see it as an opportunity to ignore the situation either. He saw it as an opportunity to restore his friend to good grace, to restore his friend to a rightful relationship with his Creator, with God. So he didn't hold his friend's sin over his head, where he abandoned or forsaken or he gossiped about his friend. No, he said, King David, you are that man. You are that man that's in sin. And once King David recognized what his friend was actually trying to do, King David repented. So we see where the prophet Nathan, this good friend, his goal was, he was used by God to bring his good friend, his longtime friend, back into a prominent relationship with God. And King David repented of all the sin that he committed, and he never committed those sins again. That's a real friend. Not somebody that sees you down and want to point the finger, but somebody that's going to see you down and try to help you get back up. So just wanted to just bring that as an example. One of the things when we have our friends, right, we got to be careful. We don't want to gossip about our friends to other people, because one thing about gossip will lead to slander. Not only are we gossiping and putting somebody's business out there, but now we're slandering that person. We're defaming that person's character. We're saying things about that individual that other people don't need to know. And I've been around people, and even as Christians, I've seen people who they will talk about somebody else. They'll gossip and put somebody else's business out there, usually to somebody that don't really know that person, and they'll put that person's business out there. And next thing you know, if a person's not discerning or critical in their thinking, they're just going to ride along with what somebody's saying about that individual. And then when they meet that person face to face, they're going to have some preconceived ideas about this person based upon what they've heard of the gossip. So the thing about it is that we want to protect our friends' reputation at all times. There's going to be rumors, there's going to be hearsays, there's going to be all kinds of speculations and things that we're going to hear about somebody. But when it comes to our friends, family members, those who we have affection for, we don't want to entertain gossip. We don't want to entertain rumors. If we have a problem with a person, we should go to that person first and talk to them and deal with them. But we want to be very careful. And I see this behavior not just with friends, but with family members or spouses. People have a tendency to put information out there that they should not put out there. And we ask ourselves the question, is a person that doing it because they're frustrated? Or is it insecurity? Are they truly concerned about that person? So gossip ultimately will lead to slander. Now, not only we're putting somebody's personal business out there, now we're saying things about that person's character. It could be about their hygiene. It could be about the way they handle their money, whatever. Certain things that some people just don't need to know. So we got to be very careful at all costs. And I would say this, when it comes to our friends, our loved ones, if they're not doing anything to hurt us, we got to be very careful what we say behind their backs. Okay? I will say this, if we're not willing to say things to their face, then we shouldn't say it behind their back. So I want to just read a couple of verses in Proverbs. And Proverbs 18:24 reads like this. It says, a man of many companions may come to ruin, but there's a friend who sticks closer than a brother. In this verse, the writer is saying there's a man who has many companions, but there's a friend. No, he says a man has many companions, but he may come to ruin. Why? Because not everybody that smiles in our face, not everybody that says good things to us, not everybody that even may show a measure of support aren't really our friends. Everybody that we come in contact with are not really our friends. And we're going to see that in times of adversity. We're going to see that when we don't do things that no longer benefit them. So a man of many companions can come to ruin. But there's one true friend that sticks closer than a brother. It's better to have one or two good friends, true friends, than to have many, many so-called companions, which can lead to ruin. Not that we have a lot of friends. Here's the thing. Because we have a tendency to want to be liked, to want to be accepted, to want to be popular, and the likes. We have that kind of high school mentality, even as adults. We want to be well received, well liked, whatever. We want to do that. We want to have this on the job, in our communities, and whatever. And we're willing to do anything, even compromise our convictions, just for the acceptance and approval of people. And we got to be very careful, because that can lead to ruin. Why? Because once we compromise our convictions, then it can lead to all kinds of other problems. This is where we start turning against each other. This is where we start turning on other people who don't fit into the popular kids club or the cool kids club. This is where we start to compromise and do things that we normally wouldn't do. So we get the idea. But so I've said this earlier, it's better to be committed to the ones who really care about us, the very few, than the very many who may not be. And I think as adults, we know who really cares about us and who really doesn't. So just wanted to bring that out. Proverbs 17 verse 17 says this: a friend loves at all times, and a brother born for adversity. Now, this is something that's very important, because I said earlier that we go through adversity. People go through issues in their life. Whether it's issues they brought upon themselves through bad choices, or things that happen outside their control. This is the litmus test to really see who's a friend and who's not a friend. When we're going through something, right, whether we brought it on ourselves or whether it happened outside of our own control, will that friend stick through when it comes time of adversity? So the Bible says a true friend, loves at all times. Even when times seem like it's rocky, even when it seems like the relationship has its issues or struggles, even when somebody makes mistakes, when they've fallen short, when they mess up, that friend, the attribute of a true friend is that she loves at all times. It doesn't give that friend the right to turn their back on somebody when things are not favorable for them, or things don't benefit them, or when emotionally, when they may not feel invested or connected to that friend anymore. It doesn't mean they turn their back on them. That's phony. And again, I said a true friend. A phony friend is not a friend. That was a never was. That's what that person is. That's what that person is. So a brother is born, a person that is close to us, a friend of ours, is born for adversity. So when there's adversity in our friend's life, we have to be there for them. When there's adversity in our lives, our friends have to be there for us. And I said this earlier, I said this multiple times over the course of a few years, that when we go through things, it will be the telltale sign of who's really our friend and who's not. And don't ignore the red flags. Don't give it a pass. Take heed to it. Okay. Because here's the thing. One incident or two incidents that we have with our friends, maybe an argument, maybe a disagreement, maybe something they did that we don't like, or we don't want to feel associated with them because we feel it's embarrassing to be associated with that person. We know how it goes. We act like we're perfect. We act like our family members are perfect. Like we never have family members that mess up, and yet we still love them. Or have we ever? Most people that are Christians, you read the Bible and you see many people. King David, I just gave the example of King David. many godly people who made mistakes. So the Bible is full of, the Bible has countless of stories of many people who made mistakes, but yet they were still shown God's grace and mercy. God didn't forsake them or abandon them. Okay? So one little dust up and we want to end the relationship. One little disagreement or misunderstanding, we want to end the relationship. Shouldn't be that way. So we have to be prepared. And I said it earlier, one of the pillars of true friendship is forgiveness. So one little dust up or two dust ups or whatever, one little minor misunderstanding, we want to toss the whole relationship away. And yet forget about all the 95 or 90% of the good that our friends have done in our lives. The times that they conversated with us, the times that they talked with us, the time that they shared with us, the time that they encouraged us, go on and on. We tend to forget about these things for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, Proverbs 16, verse 28. And it says this: a dishonest man spreads strife, and a whisper separates close friends. So we see right here that a whisper, a gossiper, those who spread rumors, those who spread lies, those who say things about our friend and we'll take it and believe it, right? That kind of behavior will separate close friends. So even close friends could be separated. I said, and that's a part of the adversity in that relationship. Any form, any time, any relationship that we have in life, whatever relationship, whatever we're trying to do financially, whatever we're trying to do in our career, in ministry, or whatever, business, we're going to have a point of adversity. We may have a couple of points of adversity in our duration of in whatever we're doing. But adversity, what it would do, I believe this: God allows adversity to strengthen us. And when we have adversity in our relationship, I believe that adversity has to be overcome so that the relationship, the friendship can be strengthened. I believe that at some point in all our relationships, we're going to get to that place. We're going to get to that point where there's going to be some disagreement. There's going to be some disappointment. And are we going to forfeit or discard the relationship over this disappointment? Especially sometimes we nitpick, we become very petty, we get mad at people, not because they did anything towards us, but because maybe they did something and then we may feel like, oh, how can somebody do? So people let us down. But again, we got to ask ourselves the question, is it worth discarding the whole relationship over one or two minor incidents? And I'll close with this. It says, a dishonest man spreads strife. So there are people that will come in and will try to cause division in relationships, in friendships. A lot of times it's because of jealousy, insecurity, whatever the reason is. They'll try to, cause a strife. They'll try to cause strife and division and the likes. And we got to be on cue. But it says also, a whisperer separates close friends. So we got to be very careful when people come into our life and want to gossip about our friends. We got to shut that down. When people say things or complain about our friends or try to defame their character or misrepresent them or whatever, we got to shut that down. That's our friend. If something is said about our friend, we could go to our friend and ask that person for ourselves, hey, is everything okay? Do you want to discuss it? If not, let it be. But we got to be very careful listening to outside sources when they talk about those who we have affection for, affection with, or whatever. Even if they're not our friend, even if they're just a close acquaintance, we got to be very mindful and not let anyone or anything cause us to be separated from those who we're close to and those who we have affection for. So until next time, I hope everybody got something out of this message and you know how this goes. I see you guys over on the next one.